Can you introduce yourself to me?
Yes, sir. I'm Aparna Ramesh. I'm an architect and an urban planner. Recently, I completed a year-long fellowship with the Smart Cities Mission, Government of India. And presently, I reside in Gurgaon, Haryana. But I've lived and studied in 10 cities in 7 states across India. And I believe this experience of living in different cultures and learning new languages has made me very adaptable and resilient also in the face of challenging situations.
All right, Aparna. So these 10 cities and so many other places, how did you get this wonderful opportunity?
Uh, so my father was a civil servant and he was posted in different states and cities. And so I grew up those places.
You have been living in Gurgaon. Tell me why Gurgaon is still having flooding problems. Why? What is the reason for this urban floods that is happening? No city of India has been spared. What is the reason?
So this is a result of the urbanization process that has happened. A number of cities have chosen to build over natural drains and lakes, ponds, etc. They've converted them into bus stops or building sites, government buildings even. And this has blocked the flow of water in cities. And as a result, there is urban flooding.
Okay, so let us say that there was some area which could have worked as a a seepage point for this water, right? Uh, but so we created buildings, and that was probably a development priority that we had. What could we have done so that at least to some extent the problem was solved?
Yes. So there is a concept in urban planning known as blue-green infrastructure. So blue-green infrastructure refers to balancing both the land and the water aspects. So one application of this concept would be to have drains that feed into natural water bodies alongside roads. And these drains should be maintained so that they are prevented from blockage by waste products, etc.
Why does one more thing that I think we're missing is that housing societies are also currently either not required or they are not doing to have some sort of water recharge system, right? Underground water recharge systems. So why they are not doing it, or is it not a part of the mandate in the city? What is it?
So rainwater recharge systems are sometimes made mandatory by the building bylaws. So in the case of Tamil Nadu and Karnataka, rainwater harvesting is compulsory when you're designing a new plot of land. Whereas in several societies, even in Haryana, even if it's a requirement of the bylaws, it's not properly implemented. There is a significant concretization of the open spaces in housing complexes. And as a result, the water is unable to seep through into the ground. And this prevents the groundwater recharge.
All right. So we can expect that as an architect who plans to join civil services, if at all becomes a part of the civil service, and these things will be implemented in law and spirit.
Sir, I would try my best, sir.
Your mother tongue is Kannada.
Yes, sir.
What was the contribution of Visvesvaraya to the field of science or architecture, as you said?
Um, Sir, Visvesvaraya was an engineer primarily, and then he became a prominent statesman in Mysore state. So, in terms of the science and technology, he is
There is one very
contributing.
big. There is one very big contribution of Mr. Sri Visvesvaraya. Can you think and tell me what I'm talking?
Sir, he was responsible for the improvements in dams across Maharashtra and Karnataka.
Any particular dam in particular?
Yes, sir. In Mysore, the Krishnarajasagara Dam and the Vani Vilas Dam in Karnataka, both are some of his contributions.
We are a developing nation, and we have definitely different priorities. But what is the reason that urban affairs and urban planning is not at all a priority for the government, or uh, is not a even public discourse on urban planning is often missing, except when it rains? What do you think could be the reason?
Sir, I would like to state that this the public discourse on urban areas is increasing slowly but surely. Initially, it was not present so much because only a smaller percentage of India's population lived in cities. And the change really has come after 1991. And today we see about 31% living in cities, and it's projected to grow. So in the future, I see that this prominence for urban areas is definitely going to increase, and even more so as they become the engines of our economic development.
So, Parna, it is said that India does not have an unemployment problem, it has a wage problem. Can you tell what it means?
Um, Sir, I think it refers to the fact that even though people are employed, they may be receiving significantly lower wages than um, required to live mere comfortable lives. And this could be a form of disguised unemployment, where there's lower productivity.
Okay, if I tell you that the government is the biggest distorter of the labor market, the government is the biggest distorter of the labor market, right? And how do you justify this, or how do you explain this?
Sir, what comes to my mind is the biggest distortion happens in terms of rural employment through the Manrega, the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme, where skilled, even unskilled labor is given a minimum 100 days of employment in rural areas. However, this is a social imperative, sir, and it can't really be taken in a negative context.
You know, so many young people are preparing for government examinations. Okay, tell me, compared to the private sector, in the government sector, what is the how is the gap between the entry level jobs and the top jobs in terms of the pay structure? Is the gap more? Is the gap less in the government versus private sector?
Sir, definitely in the private sector, the difference between the entry level job and the top post of the CEO and the other CXOs is much more. The high at the highest level, you also have stock options, etc., which give you a stake in the company. Whereas in the government, it's more a salaried structure, and the difference is not so much between the lowest and the highest levels.
So technically, how does the government enforce that? It would enforce it by ensuring that the higher top level executives do not get as much wages as their counterparts in the private sector, right? Even SBI chairman also complained. The former SBI chairman complained that my salary as a as the chairperson of the largest bank in India and among the largest banks in Asia, in fact, is nowhere close to my Western private counterparts. So it does so by doing two things. One is that it pays much lesser at the top level compared to the private sector. At the entry level, it pays much higher than the private sector. Is that true to some extent?
Mm. Sir, I would say it is definitely comparable at the entry level. Yes, sir, it is true.
So now, if at the entry level it is a little more than the private sector, do you see that a lot of people would be vying for government jobs, even though as many government jobs do not exist?
Um, Sir, I think there are other factors for this interest in government jobs. One could be the security of tenure when one gets a government job. And the second one, of course, would be the opportunity for public service. So these could be the other motivations as well.
All right, Aparna. Pegasus, a software known as Pegasus has been in use. Can you tell me what software is it? What does it do?
Yes, sir. So Pegasus is a spear phishing spyware, which has been created by NSO Group, a technology company based in Israel. And it is capable of spying on personal data in digital devices of specific targets. And
But
yes, sir.
what is there so many spyware and malware that exists every year they are built? But if you see Pegasus, it is debated in nearly every parliament of every country. In a lot of countries, the parliament or the government is discussing, having a discussion on this malware or spyware, as you say it. Now, so many spyware exist. What is so unique about it that the Indian parliament is wanting to discuss it?
Sir. So the issue really is about the targets of this spyware operation, and also the fact that it is possible that government money was used to purchase the Pegasus software.
Why, if I want to spy, let us say I want to spy on you, is it possible for me to buy it from the company?
So are you referring to this specific
Yeah,
software?
this spy. Yeah, I want to buy Pegasus to spy on, let's say, other people. Can I buy this?
So the NSO group has said, which made this software, has said that they sell only to legitimate government agencies. So I don't think private individuals can access this software.
Uttar Pradesh has come up with a population policy trying to push in the two-child norm. How far do you think that this is a good way to control our population?
Um, Sir, I think there are two key things that we must think about when a population policy is proposed. The first is that only certain states in India have a growing population. Today, several states have a declining population. So, in the future, this could mean that India's population also may face a significant decline. And the second thing, sir, a population policy must never be coercive in nature. It must rather give positive incentives for people to take wise decisions about family planning.
So does this policy, do you think this is coercive in nature, given that it does not come up with an act or a treatment or anything like that for people who have more than two kids? So do you think this is coercive in nature? The UP
So,
government policy, do you think it is
sir,
coercive in nature?
sir, I think it is somewhere midway between being coercive and being a positive incentive because there are certain criteria, especially at least in the draft bill, it says that elections to local panchayats, etc., may not be allowed for people with more than two children. At least this is what I've read from the newspaper reports. So this does impact uh, democracy.
So would you support or not support such a policy?
Sir, I've not had the chance to read the document thoroughly, but I don't support a coercive policy.
How can we deal with Uttar Pradesh as far as I can remember 21 crore people, right? Bihar including would have 21, 12 crore, 9 or 12 crore people. But like if it was a country, it would be the fifth most populous country. Clearly, the government feels that it is nearly impossible, no matter the amount of investment that we make in the infrastructure, we cannot cater to so many people. The pandemic has also shown this thing. Then why not have a population kind of policy that helps us keep population in check so that we can do justice at least to the people who are there with us?
Yes, sir, I agree with you that a population policy to handle the pressure on our infrastructure is needed. But the way in which the policy is framed and the objectives and means of implementation have to be carefully thought about. We can have an emphasis on women's education, care for prenatal and postnatal care for women, and improvements to health and nutrition of children so that their lives can be more meaningful and fruitful.
Can you name some states that have reached replacement level fertility? Northern states.
Sir, I'm not sure of the northern states, but I know Kerala and Tamil Nadu have reached replacement levels.
Okay, how about West Bengal?
West Bengal has a large population, but it is stabilizing. It is close to the replacement level.
So, Parna, you have also done volunteering for design of child-friendly schools and orphanages. How can we make a building child-friendly?
Yes, sir. So, child friendly is a concept where the development of the child is emphasized. So, there are three pillars that I would choose to make a building child friendly. The first is safety, and the second one is creativity, and the third one is ensuring independence. So, safety in terms of having softer materials, soft edges, and clear line of sight for adults to see children, creativity in terms of having closer access to toys, multi-space, multi-purpose playgrounds, etc. And thirdly, sir, independence, like we see wash basins and toilets at
Aparna,
lower
what
heights
is
for
the role
children.
of Aparna? What is the role of street hawkers in inclusive urban planning? Is there a place for street hawkers in your, barrier-free public spaces?
So barrier fee refers more to having inclusion of persons with physical disabilities. Uh, but an inclusive city does have opportunity for street vendors as well.
All right. What role do street vendors play in an inclusive urbans? What is the, do you have any benefits of having some street vendors? Everybody says that they encroach on the roads. Can you think
Uh,
of one good reason why we still need street vendors?
Um, yes, sir. Street vendors are an integral part of Indian cities because they are the sign of individual entrepreneurship at the lowest level, sir. So the most basic products, food items, etc., or at the most affordable cost is available only through
No,
street
think
vendors.
from a woman's perspective. Think from a woman's perspective. You tell
Yes,
me,
sir.
would you like street vendors or would you like them off the road?
So I found that streets where there are many street vendors are more active and well lit in the nighttime. So as a woman, I would feel safer walking on those streets. It's the concept of eyes on the street.
The economy is not doing so well, but the stock market is booming. Can you tell me why?
Yes, sir. So world over, the stock markets are booming because of the increased liquidity, and governments have been encouraging investors to start investing in the economy after the slowdown. And second thing, sir, with the vaccine and the medicines that have come about for COVID-19, there has been a slight confidence also in amongst the investor community.
But now, after all this urban planning and all this, why civil services?
So it was a very conscious decision for me to apply for the civil services exam. As a student of in the Masters of Urban Planning degree, I had the opportunity to interact with several civil servants. Many of them were in the IAS. And from them, I learned the possibilities that and the opportunities that could open up through the civil services. And I could contribute not only to urban planning, but to the wider cause of nation building as well.
All right, my interview is over.
Yes, thank you.